Okay.
you know, thinking they want to be working.
We're gonna go ahead.
No.
We're going to go ahead and get started. It's 11:45. Garrett's going to join us in a bit, but we've got a quorum. I don't know if is Ben.
Brett said he would be here.
Okay, so he should be here shortly. But we do have a quorum, so we can go ahead and get started. So I appreciate everyone coming this morning. First off, is there anything that needs to be added to the agenda? Okay, no? Then I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the agenda today.
I so move that we approve the agenda.
Okay,
I'll second that.
and all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? That's passive. Okay, and then I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda consisting of the May 25th, 2022 regular meeting minutes, the current pending deposit gifts report, and the statistical report as submitted. I don't think we made any of that.
I move we accept.
Thank you, Chris.
Second.
Okay, Sharon. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay, let's just jump right in. We've got a fairly busy schedule today. And first off, I do want to thank Chris for chairing the meeting last month. And I understand it probably went better than it would if I'd been here. So
Never true. Never
I
true.
appreciate that, Chris.
Never true.
I read through it, thought, wow, they did a great job. So let's jump right into Friends report. We don't, oh, there's Ruth.
Ruth just
Okay.
arrived.
Perfect timing, Ruth.
Okay.
Go ahead and grab your seat. I'll go. Can I do the foundation report first?
Yes.
while Ruth
Go ahead.
gets her bearings?
We'll do them out of order. That's fine.
All right. This is from Susan. She is at the last meeting of what we're calling Richmond Leads. I think I mentioned it last month. It's a management program for, we've got all of our LCSMs there. And that's also where Clay's at. He's speaking on behalf. They're doing their final closeout sessions. This will be the last one for them. So that's been a good experience. And I think all of our staff have learned something and benefited. And I think it'll really help us moving forward on the strategic plan. So let me give her foundation update. First, she wishes to thank everyone who donated this year. We are closing in the end of the fiscal year, June 30. So if you have not already, please consider supporting our public library through a donation to the foundation. Grant activity. The foundation will submit a grant request to the Robbins Foundation to expand impact of the highly successful RBA Reads program. Notification of awards will occur in September. The foundation the foundation applied for a grant from the REV Foundation through the Community Foundation. That is a restricted fund in their portfolio. And that will also support RBA Reads. The notification for that will also be in September. And then lastly, the foundation will apply the Commonwealth of Virginia campaign again this year. Last year, the foundation received a $500 donation through this opportunity. So those are the three updates that she has on grants and partnerships. So we had a full foundation meeting at North Avenue about 2 weeks ago. I think, were you there, Emily? You were there. Yeah. So I thought that went well. I was very proud to hear how much the foundation embraced the strategic plan, and it was a very common thread throughout the whole discussion. So answered a lot of their questions on the renovation plan, the conceptual plan for Maine. So things are just kind of going along. Is there anything else of note from that meeting? Updates. We set a budget for FY23. We're updating the gift policy for the foundation. So the guidelines for how someone makes a donation and what the restrictions are and how we'll proceed with them. That's ongoing. Overall, the foundation is still around about $1 million in assets. And we're continuing to keep growing. So hopefully we'll have a big year this coming 23. And then we gave everyone a chance to see the storm gardens at stormwater mitigation gardens at North Avenue. There's a very nice article in the back of your report that details that. So we have finished that up at North Avenue, Broad Rock, and West End. So if you've had a chance to see it, some of you actually helped out at it. So stay tuned. in July, I'd like to do a thank you kind of luncheon for all of our volunteers who took part in it, and invite board members, council people, friends to visit those locations and see that wonderful job. And that's all I have for the foundation.
Any questions? Okay, Ruth, for the friends?
Okay, we had started our fiscal year in first, so we are just getting into it. We had a bag sale that was pretty well attended, first weekend of June. We cleared out some books and we had some very happy teachers as we've been slowly putting out the social media through parents and teachers that we had for these special sales, been providing special discounts for teachers. And we even have someone come in and give us a donation of $100 to
Wow.
sell books to teachers. So they're providing that for them. We are getting ready to bring on a new class of board members. They haven't all yet agreed to our terms, but there's a lot of people that are excited, and we are still looking for a couple more board members. If you know anybody who thinks might be a good fit. We will not have a July meeting since it's so close to the 4th and everybody seems to be away. So we will not do that. And our annual meeting, it will be on November 4th. So that will be the first Friday of November. That'll be the evening of our book sale. So we hope that people coming to that. And right now for some books, we are calling the books. So we need to you know, of like a special group that is some donations. Correctional centers in the area that come. Had a couple of people that come that they're saying to us now that they can't take books at the moment. So we would prefer to give them homes as opposed to just throwing them in the dumpster. So, or if anyone wants to populate little free libraries, bring your pickup. And I think that is it, unless there are any questions.
Do you have anything that kind of details what the Friends Board does in case we have someone who might be, might be interested? in-
Sure, I can send that to you. I can send it to Bill, and you can disseminate to the whole board. Or directly if you want.
Okay, Scott, we'll move on to the admin report.
All right. I don't know if you all had it in the consent agenda. Our statistics are making pretty good progress. If you can look at where we are today compared to last year, we are going to, we've already surpassed circulation for 2019, which is great. I think you'll notice that one of the big drivers is electronic books. But across the board at all of our locations, many of our branches are exceeding circulation in 2019. We have a couple that are struggling to catch back up, but I think they will catch back up. And so I just wanted to point out that that's a good sign. Next, I want to move on to COVID. It's still causing us headaches. In the last 3 weeks, we've had a couple branches that have had exposures kind of roll through them. People have been positive. They've exposed their coworkers. Everyone's had to get tested. We've been fortunate enough to keep things on track and keep things going. The city administration advised all city staff to wear masks in the building. That's an advisement, not a mandate. So that's how we're proceeding. And we're still distributing masks as well as COVID tests. COVID tests were a hot commodity over the last month. People are picking them up. You'll notice when you leave today, there's a book cart full of them. So help yourself if you need one. Plenty. They're one of the big things that we continue to support. One thing I wanted to bring up is July, we were scheduled to meet at Belmont, and that location has a very small meeting room. So I'd like you all to consider if we want to move to a location with a larger meeting room or meet here. that's your decision. I've been trying to think, you'll recall we were at North Avenue and that was a pretty tight meeting room.
Yeah.
So,
Let me jump in and ask real quickly, because I think we might as well just decide on that. We don't need to make a
sure.
big deal about it as far as, motion or anything. I don't know the meeting room at North Avenue. Emily, I know that the foundation board that met there was a larger board than ours probably. I don't know how many they had. Would we fit in there? The only reason I mention it is that North Avenue has felt a little neglected maybe at times. And I think it's important that they recognize that we value them and that, maybe we should, we've tried to get to all the branches for years until COVID hit. We did alternating meetings, branches here. Belmont's too small for us to meet right now. But I don't know whether, Emily, do you think North Avenue would work for that? Or is it pretty tight?
I mean, I don't know. We did have a lot more people in that room. So we could spread out,
Yes, I do know it well.
What do you think, Barbara?
We could definitely meet there. I think the problem is just, like I said, we got the same similar kinds of tables and we can get the configuration like this, but I think it would be a good experience because I think that was one of my primary forces for coming to this board, because I have always felt that North Avenue has been the stepchild of the system. So I was very committed to this task. But yeah, I think we could definitely fit for this small group, because we also hold, well, before COVID, we held third district council meeting. The council person held his community meetings there. So, but I think we can get it spaced out.
I mean, ultimately, we want to visit all of our branches. We
Yeah.
love all of our branches
Right. Thank
equally,
you.
and we
Thank
love to
you.
show them all off.
But when the time is right.
Yeah, I mean, the last 2 going on 3 years, we haven't been able to do that. And so
That's
it's
true.
not anything that we don't love one more than
I know.
another, but
I'm being
some of our
facetious.
meeting rooms are bigger than others. Unfortunately, Belmont, which is probably a nice central location for lots of folks, is
Small.
the smallest one of the bunch.
Yeah.
Even West End is pretty, all of our, and that's something we need to fix, which we will fix. But yeah, so,
Does Belmont have any parking lot at all?
yeah, they have some spaces right by the building, and they have a side lot behind the, there's like a rental office that controls, like a rental agent that controls things. But there is a lot there. It is small. It's, again, it's Carytown. There's parking is a challenge
Parking can be
everywhere.
hard.
Yep. So that's one. I think we've had meetings there. It's really tight in a good time, but yeah, they're definitely our smallest meeting room. But we can shoot for North Avenue.
So I would
next
say,
month if that's,
everyone okay with North Avenue? Would anyone prefer to stay here? I mean, we do have the advantage here of easy parking and spaced out seating, but.
I say north, let's do north.
well, you can see the stormwater
You can.
See it up
project
Yes.
and our undulating sidewalk.
So we're gonna move, John has got it down, we're gonna move from Maine, see at the bottom of your agenda, from Maine to North Ave, same time. Okay, good. Sorry.
No, I just want to bring to your, one question that we had last month was on the urban fiction experience. Sharon brought up, wondered how we promoted it, because unfortunately we didn't have as high attendance as we wanted. So I went back to staff and they gave me a report. We took out an ad in the free press. So we had we had some funding from the foundation. So we did that advertising. We also did on multiple websites. We hit our social media. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, our website. I think we pushed it out on Nextdoor. We also did posters and handbills that were put up in the library. So those are kind of the standard channels that we use, we use to promote things. The one thing you did bring up was that we haven't done an RPL at home in about 3 or 4 months. That needs to restart. And so
Yeah.
I've tasked staff with redesigning it and coming up with a new schedule for it and maybe a new layout. I'd like to get that started, hopefully by the end of this month or in July. It'll look different, but it'll be distributed on email. And then I think we should even consider printing out some hard copies, especially if we go 2 weeks, so that way people can grab them on their in and out. So that's one thing that resulted from our discussion last month, and I wanted to report back to you what we did. The other thing we were up against that weekend, there was a lot going on. and the weather was incredibly hot, and it was great, so people were getting outside. So I think that all those things kind of conspired against us, but you raise a good point, because we really need to be hitting all of those different channels to try and connect with our programming with people, especially coming out of COVID, because people don't know when we're open. We're going to expand our hours, and I've stressed to library community services managers and library staff that it may be slow when we start up, but we need to get busy and have events and programs in the evenings to attract people to our space. So if it's slow, we need to figure out how to get things back open. But we also need to make sure we're getting our message out on as many channels as possible. So it was a great suggestion, and I wanted to just follow up with you on what we were doing, what we wanted to do.
I was very glad to see the information in the superintendent's. That went out. And that's something, I mean, that goes out to all the parents and everything.
That's
So
right.
we need to really push anything that we're doing through that. And I also saw Chesterfield's book sale in Richmond magazine. I
Oh,
didn't
wow.
see Richmond, but I saw Chesterfield's. So,
Okay.
that might be something we might want to
Yeah.
reach out to them. And Style Weekly is still online, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, we have advertised in Style Weekly when it was a regular publication and had kind of a mixed bag of results from that. But again, we try all the different channels. We keep trying them. What doesn't work in one may work in another at another time. It's all just, I hate to say it's hit or miss, but you just have to kind of keep trying all those different channels, and we'll continue to do that. But I do feel it's very important that we get a RPL at home back going again, because we have so much to promote, and as we put things back in the evenings, that's a great promotion to get out there. We can send it to 20,000 library card users. It goes out on email, which I mean, all of us get tons of email. I think some people are better email readers than others, but I think that's one touch point. We also need to do it, I think, in paper as well. So
Now, Richmond has a tremendous amount of book clubs.
Mhm.
And I don't know how, to my knowledge, there's no organization that has a listing, of those things or corrals them or anything like that. And I was wondering if some way we could reach out to, book clubs and let them know we have meeting rooms. We have your books. We have suggestions
Yeah.
for books, I mean, something like that. I know a couple of book clubs that I'm kind of, associated with, they always putting out there, what do you think we should read now?
Yeah.
And the librarians should be consulted about that.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question, Scott.
Mhm.
As you mentioned earlier with the branches having some issues with COVID, what's our current policy now in terms of use of the space by the outside community?
But we're allowing people to use all of our spaces.
Okay.
They're responsible for making sure COVID, whatever they feel comfortable with in the space, is being followed.
Okay.
So we don't have any restrictions on that. There's all of those mandates that the state had in place in 20 and 21 have all fallen away, because I believe the emergency order, I don't know if it expired or
I
was
think it
removed. I don't know the
I think
details
it
on that.
expired.
Yeah.
But
So-
do our library staff members still have access to cleaning products or anything? I
Mhm.
mean, is that readily available, after the meetings?
So when we do have an exposure, we have housekeeping will come in and they have this thing that they spray. It's like a backpack sprayer, and they walk through the space, and they're still continuing to do that. Our buildings are cleaned daily. And we still have plenty of Lysol wipes. So if people need those or request those are available. Our hand sanitizing stations, many of those are still up. So a lot of the signage that was up that said, watch your distance, a lot of that has come down. At this point, I feel like a lot of people already know that and feel that, but we are definitely not enforcing mask mandates. That has not been the mandate from the city. It's advisable, but not mandated. Because when we did have it, we had a lot of challenges with enforcing that. But yeah, if staff need cleaning supplies, all they have to do is talk to their manager, or they're readily available.
And they keep hand sanitizer on all desks.
I think everybody has access to hand sanitizer. If they need
Yeah.
it, we can provide it to them.
It's everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. One other thing, another thing that was requested last month is a thank you one pager. So I put together that one pager for you. I'm sorry for the delay on it, but I have a hard copy for you here in person. Again, I utilized our strategic plan and did it through the lenses of that. So I did it based on access, early literacy, lifelong learning, organizational strength, and uniquely Richmond. And I've detailed the things that will be coming back, things that will be adding in beginning of the fiscal year. And then on the back of it, I listed the hours that will start. We'll start rolling these hours out starting July 1. One of the challenges with getting our hours back to where they were and where actually to do more than what we did in 2020 is getting our positions filled. We couldn't fill many of those positions because the funding isn't available yet. So at the beginning of the new fiscal year, that funding will be available, and then we can start putting those requisitions through to fill part-time positions that basically were eliminated the last 2 years. So we'll start filling the part-time positions and then other positions that are vacant as soon as the fiscal year starts.
One quick thing I'll mention on this, and it's on the back, when you look at the table of the hours. But when you're just reading that first bullet, public library access, Sunday hours 1 to 5 will return to Broad Rock branch. That's going to be September 1. So just, even though it says effect starting July, they're going to be open, but
Yeah.
Broad Rock is going to be a little longer because of the getting staffing and
Yeah.
things in place on it. So
We're-
just be aware of it.
We're still down in a library community services manager at Hall Street. That position's been vacant since last November. And Heather Montgomery, who is our branch manager at Broad Rock, has been covering both locations. And we've been shorthanded there for the last 6 months. We're hoping to fill that position soon. So ideally, by September, we'll have all of these hours in place. July 1, we'll have probably 90% of these hours in place. By September 1, we'll have all these hours in place. Quick rule of thumb is every branch will have 2 nights open, and the main library will be open 4 nights a week. So Monday through Thursday, main will be open. And then by the end of the year, as we fill positions, we'll start figuring out how maybe we can restore Sundays at the main library. Maybe we can expand, add hours at locations that have the capacity, staffing capacity to have hours. I would like to see all of our branches open until 8 or 9 o'clock, Monday through Thursday. I mean, ideally, what I'm used to seeing in libraries is 9 to 9, Monday through Thursday, 9 to 6, Friday, Saturday, Sundays 1 to 5. That's the ideal schedule. You can make that work. There's scheduling around that is actually a little bit easier than the hours we're proposing here by closing at 8 o'clock. It's making that shift, getting that adjustment, and figuring out the manpower levels that we need. So that's what we're working for. The other thing I want to highlight on this also notes, we're going to add 5,000 more books to the collection. That's huge. That part of our budget took a $60,000 cut. That's what we should be able to restore in that. I know books are the core, but books are not, people forget that that's our fundamentals. And then early literacy, early learning we're going to talk about that more at the end, but the summer reading program, the Ocean of Possibilities, that kicked off well. It's going to run for 9 weeks. And we want to just keep pushing that. Are there any questions on the thank you? Do you like the format? If you would like to see it change, have it prepared.
Let's talk about that more when we get to advocacy.
Okay. So that's that. And then on June 29th, Bill mentioned last month, folks who wanted people on this board, the foundation board and the Friends board who would like more information on the renovation conceptual plan and update. I'll be happy to provide an update for that on the 29th of June, and that'll be at 4 o'clock. So I have a nice presentation that I can give that will show you where we're at this point. And then I'm happy to give you a tour of the building so you can see some of the things where we'd like to upgrade or needs to be better, where we're at.
What's the time again? The date was June 29th?
June 29th at 4 o'clock. I'll send out a reminder after this
Okay.
meeting. Send it out to the boards, maybe ask people to RSVP. And I believe that's all I have.
Questions for Scott and another report that's attached? Okay. Well, I'll jump in with the chairman's report. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time because we have other things to cover. I would like to sort of follow up on what I sent to last month's meeting when I was not here, which is that we're aware of confusion or however you want to put it, less clarity than maybe should be there on that master plan. That foundation people, some of them reacted less positively than we had hoped at that joint retreat. I think Scott is doing a good job of getting that information out there. He is meeting with some of the individuals who would express concerns, talking to them about it. He's trying to remind, and also Don Olmschneider and others, obviously over the foundation, but from our side here, trying to remind people that the foundation's role is to support the library. It's a fundraising organization to support the mission that this board decides on and moves forward with. So you can disagree with that. If you're over there and you say, gee, we don't like what the LBOT, the Board of Trustees is doing here. And your choices really at that point should be to either support us, even though you don't like it, or make way for someone who is going to support the mission. Because it's not there as a second governing board to look at things and say, well, I don't like what the Board of Trustees did, so we're gonna, think that, well, instead of funding into this to help the library, we'd rather see the city spend money on X, Y, and Z. Okay, so just it's one of those things that I've been wrestling with a little bit. I just think it's important that you guys realize that even though you're hearing things, you're the ones who make the decisions on the direction for the library. And the foundation has to come behind us. And we do that together. I mean, we're not dictating to them, but the final decision-making goes to this board. And then that board, after they've disagreed with us, if they do, and we've heard their ideas, are going to come together and say, okay, here's where the library is going. Do they support us or not? If they don't, they shouldn't be there, and other people should, because we need them for the fundraising, not for the governance. Okay. So anyway, I think we're making progress in that by meeting with those people.
Can I add
Yes.
one sentence in complete support
Please.
of what you're saying?
Please.
And I liked your note, but what we really want is Scott to be dealing with the city to get the money as
Yes.
fast as possible to get going.
Right.
Which is why it's so important that Bill was willing to talk to anyone. We have the excellent John Umschneider.
Yep.
We have Ruth. These three are the
Yes.
people who need to be running interference with the people who are on. Scott needs to be focused on getting this through.
And he
So
should not.
everything, and that's what you said in your letter, everything you can do to protect him.
Right.
So he can do the important work. It was well done, Bill.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Chris. And I echo that. Chris has a unique perspective because of her husband sitting on the board. She hears the scuttle coming from that direction too, that maybe I don't. But I do think we've had a couple of people on the foundation board who have said, well, we don't know that there's a need to renovate. Or well, we think that if the city is going to spend $70 million, they should be thinking about spending it on programs outside of the library instead of in the library. Well, we can all find things that the city should be doing, and we can advocate for that, and we do that in our voting, we do it in our community associations, et cetera. But we're here representing the library and how the library can best serve the citizens of Richmond. And I think we all here recognize that this building, which many of us have very fond memories and feelings for, that's close to us, that it is in need of more than just a facelift. Okay.
If Janet and Gail have convinced of us of
Right.
anything, it's that this is absolutely a must do.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to do. And Scott's meeting with people. That's what the meeting on the 29th. Any of us are welcome to come. If you're already on board with, as I think you all are, with the master plan that Janet and Gail are doing such a fantastic job with, then if it's convenient, come. If it isn't, know that you're there already. Okay. But, and it should be interesting. Scott's gonna do a nice job of explaining it, and you'll get a chance, if you haven't toured the library recently, to see some of the gaping issues that exist, the things that we're using space completely ineffectively, and, you know, things that have to change if we're really gonna do what the community needs, including those meeting rooms and the access, all those things that are in our strategic plan. So this is at the core of that too. So, okay, so I wanted to touch on that. I'm also gonna touch on something without making any political statement, position. Please don't interpret it this way. The city, there's a lot of discussion about collective bargaining, and I just want to make y'all aware that we know that's a possibility. It is not really something that we at the Board of Trustees have anything to do with, even though we had that sort of quasi-independent, quasi-city role here. It's a funny one. But from the HR side, if the collective bargaining goes in, city will be representing us in that. We won't be doing things on it. There'll be, I'm sure, good things, bad things, as there is with anything that happens on that. So just be aware of it, and that it could also affect us budget-wise. I don't know what that would do, you know, how that will work as we go forward. But that's continuing. Those are the only things that I had, I think, to cover today from the chairman's side. I think we're doing great. One last thing is, I think that we need to focus on what Chris is going to talk about, that we need to be, we've come out of COVID at some level. We're still in it. We're all dealing, I mean, one of my sons had a celebration of his wedding 2 years after the actual wedding, over Memorial Day weekend. And we had about, between rehearsal dinner and the party, we had 180, 200 different people at the two events probably. And we ended up with about 6 who came down with COVID out of it. You know, it wasn't a super spreader, but I mean, maybe they all would have come down with it anyway. So I do recognize that we still have this thing going on. I'm not trying to minimize it. But from a board's perspective, I'd like to be able to turn our attention toward advocacy for the funding, for the master plan, for programs with the schools, the early literacy that Chris is going to get into more, and think that we are hitting the point, hey, Garrett, that we can move away from worrying about the day-to-day. How do we keep a branch open because of COVID and those types of issues? And do we go to curbside and so on? So I think that's good. We'll get back to where we were a couple of years ago, maybe on directing and doing our job better. So Garrett, I've talked long enough that you've arrived perfectly on time to do a finance report.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. No specific updates, I guess, for this meeting. I know I need to talk to Gail after and talk about the letter to Ellen Robertson. And also there's some additional things that we're going to continue to do as it relates to opportunities as we move into construction for the main library, but nothing beyond that.
Scott, did you have anything on? You had mentioned that we're coming closer in line with the budget. If you look at the attachments there, you'll see like the books.
That's right.
Expenditures and things.
Yep.
So as we come toward the end of the year, the budget forecast and actual start to match up a little bit better.
Yeah, we're, the city of Richmond, the fiscal year ends on June 30th. So the year is spinning down. Requisition stopped about mid-May. Purchase orders are being paid out right now. So the city's paying all of the things that are needed to be paid by the end of this fiscal year. If you look at the board report, you'll see that we're tracking very well with our spending in operations and personnel. Overall, we're at 94.7% of spending our budget, which is where we need to be. So it's about right. It's right on target. We are pretty high on our personnel spending at 97%. That will probably go over before the end of the fiscal year because we have about 2 more pay periods that haven't appeared in this, so that will go over. Some of that is just a consequence of raises and cost to benefits that were more. The book budget we were concerned with about mid-year because we hit a snafu with ordering and we were a little bit behind. We caught that back up and have put that back on track, and we will hit close to 100% of that, but not over for the book budget. And then lastly, our operations budget, those bills are all being paid out in good order. So going into next fiscal year, they're finalizing, we know what the final numbers are, the city council approved the budget and the mayor signed off on it end of, like, the beginning of June, I believe, yeah. The state finally got their job done. That has different impacts on us. I believe Youngkin signed the bill yesterday.
Yeah, I think it was yesterday.
Yeah, so this, now that the state has finalized things, we know where we fall with those issues. I have not heard back from the state library on the waiver request. I have submitted that because of the decrease in funding year to year. I don't anticipate a problem with that. I believe the state library has their board of trustees. So state library board meets June 28th, I believe. So they'll meet next week and approve those things. We have submitted our application for state aid. That accounts for about 189,000. You'll see that also appears in this budget report. So kind of final numbers are coming in. Fiscal year 23 numbers are getting set. We're spending all of the funding where we need to spend it, and then we're preparing to assess positions that can be reactivated going into 23. That will have a direct impact on the access hours, the hours that were open. As we fill those positions, as I said before, we will begin to increase hours. Our goal is to, as we have decided as a board, that access is number one issue. So getting our libraries open is critical. So we are pushing hard for that.
Anything else on finance? We roll on to Janet. Yep, Janet?
Well, the brain trust, as I call Susan, Scott, Gail, and me, we continue to wrestle with getting our document from Steinberg Hart. We decided that calling it master plan was not the best way to present it. We like conceptual design for the renovation of this building. So we've done a lot of reading. The MLK Library in DC has a similar timeline to our building. It opened in 72. It had a big renovation a couple of years ago. Was that done?
Yep.
So we found a treasure trove of their documents, which we just want to cut and paste because they really did excellent work. Now their building is 400,000 square feet.
Right.
And we're 100,000.
Right.
I mean, we're not saying we're in their league, but they had to struggle with the historic building, which limited what they could do. Whereas we don't have that, but we have our Dooley building. We have this building. And so we like conceptual design or for renovation of the main library. We kind of felt like master plan was too broad. It was too rigid. You know, it was like, here's what we're going to do and don't ask any questions. So we like to say to people that we paid Steinberg Hart for conceptual design for how to renovate this building. So that's kind of where we stand. We're working on, we have to keep nudging them to get the final document. Scott's done a good job with the Urban Design Commission. And I'll let him talk about that, but I feel like they're saying, we don't like your conceptual design, which they have no business saying. So we are not unhappy with the work that's been done. We're trying to figure out how to present it to the world at large. And we're anxious to move forward with getting on the city's list of things to do, knowing that they need to think about $70 million.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with any of the work that's been done. We just want to present it. the right. Does that sound fair?
Anything else about the conceptual design?
It's hard to stop saying master plan.
I actually think it's great because I think master plan and strategic plan, just having two plans that were that close was confusing to anybody who didn't deal with them regularly. So,
Oh, the other issue that I want us to be sure to do is in 2009, there was a plan done for branch renovations. And this building is addressed in that plan. So the project we're doing now stems from that 2009 plan. And anyone who says, where did this come from? You just have to read that plan, and a lot of the problems we're dealing with were addressed then. So this isn't new work, it's a continuation. And we hope that the conceptual design presentation document will link back to that process.
Thank you, Janet. Gail, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Okay, we're all set.
We're good? Okay,
Thanks,
thank you.
Janet.
Then we'll turn it over to Emily for governance.
Okay. Today, we're going to be doing our leadership elections, but first I wanted to say that Brent Graves was reappointed to his position on the board. He served a partial term, so this is his first full term, and that will go from July 1st this year to June 30th of 2026. So, thank you, Brent.
You're
Now we'll just move on to our elections. Mr. William Yates has shown interest in continuing in his role of chair of this board. Is there anyone else? I haven't heard from anyone else who was interested in the position as well. Is there anyone else? Okay. Seeing none, at this time, I would like to submit a motion that we reappoint Mr. Yates to the role of chair of this board. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second. Okay. That was Garrett. Okay, wonderful. That's it? Okay, great.
No vote needed. Okay.
Thank you very much. Next, we will move to the vice chair. So Ms. Sharon Carter Gunter has shown interest in serving in the role of vice chair of this board. I haven't heard from anybody else, but would anyone else like to run for the position? No? Okay, seeing no hands, I would like to move that we appoint Ms. Carter Gunter to the position of vice chair. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Gail. And thank you, Sharon. Yes, wonderful. And both of these positions, of course, are 2-year terms, so they will go until June 30th, 2024. Okay, thank you very much. And that is all of the business I had.
Okay, thank you, Emily. That is great. And I'd like to thank Chris for having done such a great job as vice chair, and say that Chris and I talked about it, and I think Chris would have stepped into chair if I had not been willing to stay in it. But and I said if she really wanted it, I'd step out of it too. But this should work well. I'm looking forward to, and I've asked Chris, I said, if you aren't chair, can we still count on you fully? If you're not vice chair, can we still count on you fully? And got an absolutely positive. So I really do appreciate what Chris is doing, and we're going to roll from here into Chris leading us a bit here. So I think that's Chris, I guess on the advocacy, do you have stuff you want to say there? We talked about the 1-page checklist. We can talk that, or do you want to move to early learning?
I just want to make, we're going to wrap up this budget advocacy by each of us contacting our council person without asking them for money and thanking them for their support. And whichever one of these things you think resonate with that council person, some I know were interested in learning and children, some were interested in hours, you know, from your conversation, you're just going to say your help has helped us do this. And let me tell you why you want to do it. You want to do it for 2 reasons. One, it builds your relationship with the council person. We're going to need that going into the next few years. So every time you can touch them, that's a good thing. Second, in the fundraising game, which happens to be my profession, the The one thing people who get asked for money hate is the only time people talk to them is when they're making an ask. And they all say, regardless of whether it's a business, a nonprofit, an individual, I wish someone would just come and tell me what they're using the money for. So we're going to follow that best practice if you're all willing, and we're going to go to them during these nice quiet months of July and August. And we're going to say, thank you. Without you, we wouldn't be able to do these things. I'll leave the next steps up to you. If you want to say, I'm going to try twice a year to give you an update, you can do that. You know, however you want to open the door for further conversation, super good idea. But it's fairly urgent that we do this final wrap up on this budget. This is the time to be gracious right now and to tell them they made a good decision by investing on us, because we're going to be able to do our job. Not completely, but almost.
Excellent. And Chris, I would suggest that with that, the one-page checklist and with what Chris said, that unless they bring up the conceptual design,
It should
that
not.
you avoid
no.
it.
That's right. This,
Okay.
this is all about the budget.
Right,
Let's stay
Yep.
focused on what we've been talking about with them.
exactly.
There will come a time.
Right,
to
we're
do
gonna
that,
be
but
there
that's
in
not
some
now.
months, but not
Yeah,
the next
that's
two.
not now.
So, okay. Great. Then we're gonna move any other unfinished business. I don't know of any. We're gonna jump into early learning literacy. Chris, you asked.
When I was writing the strategic plan, I was very well coached by Scott. And one of the things that he taught me is that in that 0 to 5 age group for children, it's a real strategic strength of the library. You know, we are sitting in a 1, 2, 1, 2, 3 position in helping children learn. So I thought, let me think about this, did some research. I'm certainly not an expert. And what I found is that Richmond already has a pretty serious problem with kindergarten readiness. It is really not driven by color, it's driven by poverty. Doesn't matter whether, you know, you're pink or orange. Poverty is your issue. So and we have 43% of our children 0 to 5 living in poverty. So we already have an overwhelming problem. And this is 2018 data. Do you guys think it's gotten better during the pandemic? So we have a little over 35% of the kids in 2018 who were not ready for kindergarten in 2018. What do you think has happened to that number? We know it hasn't gone down. We have anecdotal information. It may have gone as badly as doubled. So if this is a strategic spot for us and we've got a growing problem, I felt we needed to step up our response. And I was lucky enough to work with Scott and Beth Morris, who is the 0 through elementary school person. I'm very impressed with her. And I'm doing 3 things. I'm not by myself, I'm doing it. I'm aligned with everyone. One is I've convened a pedagogical group. You know, what is it we need to do based on best practices from assessments, criteria, you know, all the standards. And for that, I brought on board Tamala Richardson, who is the director of early learning for the state, and she is amazing. I brought on Joan Rhodes, who is the chair of early learning at VCU. She wrote the standards for 0 to 5, enormously well respected. And Cynthia Hutchinson, who is in charge of Excel, which is teacher prep program integrity. And they're going to help Beth and I come up with some rigor to the way we move forward. And our timeline is next summer. So we have plenty of time to think through the best programs and then get them lined up. So that's the first thing we're working on. The second thing, Scott and I know that we are not the only library in America who has the same, this might be a problem. So we're going to do some benchmarking among the best libraries to see what they're doing. We don't have to have every good idea. We could borrow ideas from other places. So we're going to launch that activity, and Scott's going to start at the ALA conference in a few days. The third thing I'm doing, we have nice partners, but if we're going to jumpstart and be much more aggressive for 0 to 5-year-olds, we need more partners. And so I'm starting to talk to people who don't normally work with us. So tomorrow I'm talking to Bruce Miller, the founder of the Virginia Rep, who his deal is early literacy. Let's see what Virginia Rep is planning to do, and if there might be space for us to work together. And I have a long list of other organizations to check with. So those are the 3 things I have in play. To you guys, I hope to be back to you in 3 months for 2 reasons. One, depending on what I learn, and we're actually going to be truth and fact based, this might be a board initiative. You know, we might want to say, Scott, we won't have any trouble with Scott, but Scott, whether you like it or not, this is an important thing. But we might not say that. Let me play a little more. Let me do a little more work. But the second thing is when we launch our effort to get more money for the next year, this might be a great selling point that we actually have identified a problem, that we've done rigorous research, and we have a compelling solution. So it might possibly, I don't know yet, help us as we move forward. So I just wanted to give everyone a heads up. I find this is a really important topic, and it has nothing to do with having 3-year-old grandsons. And in another few months, I hope to come back and report what my findings are. Yeah.
I have one question. Is the list of persons that you are using to brainstorm with, are any of those persons a part of the Richmond public school system?
No, in fact, I believe they all know about the Richmond. I mean, but these are academics.
Okay.
So the partnership part, that third thing might be the RPS thing. I don't know, Sharon, what do you think?
I definitely hope that, you know, you involve someone with RPS. It's funny you should say that. Another organization that I belong to, we just a week ago donated 350 books to the Martin Luther King Preschool Center. Richmond is putting librarians in the preschool centers now, and they would be ideal,
Mhm.
you know, people to work with.
Right. If you'll pass that on to me, or if you want to take it and then just report back to me, that would be
Okay.
fine. This is not my technical field,
Mhm.
so there's so much I don't know.
And, you know, the thing is, we have got to get more RPS students library cards. And, you know, I hate to say, but it has to start with the parents. And those preschool parents are the ones we need to target, you know, because that's a lifelong learning thing. You know, if they know about it, they'll continue it forever. But they don't know about it. They don't know how to get a library card. I mean, to be honest with you, it took me a long time to decipher how to get a card. And I call myself fairly intelligent. You know, I mean, if there's some cliff notes, something we can do to get with those librarians and the teachers in those preschool centers, you know, they send home stuff, you know, regularly. They communicate with parents a lot. And, you know, we have got to, I guess, go that route. You know, they want their children to be involved in things. And it sort of broke my heart. You know, we went over there and donated the books and read to the students and just talking to the little babies. We gave every student in that preschool a book to take home. And the children like, I don't have any books, you know, and I mean, it is heartbreaking. They're home, I mean, homes, they don't even have a Bible, I hate to say it, but
Yeah.
there are no books in the home.
Yeah.
You know, we've got to do something to put these things in the hand of the children, and the only way we can do that is get those parents. Yeah.
And I think we also have the disadvantage of coming out of the pandemic, that the children who are in pre-K right now had never been out of the home before. So, you know, before, when you had a child, you took them to the library at a very early age. That was a kind of a thing that mothers and fathers did with young children. But we've had those children home. So some of them, when they came to pre-K, because my daughter works with the 3-year-olds, they had never been in any setting. Those children had never been in any setting with another child. So, you know, we're talking about poverty, but we're also talking about what that isolation did. The social right. So we, you know, and I think that the fact that the school system is recognizing the benefit of having a librarian in the pre-K program is a big step. Because when I retired in 2009, I volunteered with the public schools and I volunteered in the pre-K program, and we had no librarian. Our kids we were at Blackwell, and they walked to the library on Hall Street, and the librarian there did programming for our kids, because in those years, that was not a service that was a part of the pre-K program. So we're making some steps, but the connection between the school and the library is still a missing link. And I will just say this, as a professional in the area, I think if somebody comes to me with a plan that they don't bring me in on the beginnings of, I think we may run into a different kind of resistance, maybe some professional resistance, or like, why weren't we not included? So I don't know how you do that piece, but and I know this is a
Well,
place that we
clearly I have
struggle.
you and Sharon help me. Yeah.
I'll do whatever I can.
Yeah, the answer's pretty obvious to me. Yeah.
Well, you know, one of the things I was excited to hear in the foundation report, because the Richmond Reads program does just what your group did, because I was a part of the grouping. We went over to Mary Scott last month, and that's what we do. We read to the kids, and then every kid gets a book. But it's done that day. We covered the whole school. We did the same thing. Every kid got the same book. So I think the library has an in, and you've got Barbara Crump, who leads that, who would also be another good person who's a part of our staff already. And that is exactly what she's doing, and that's the niche that she works. So I think it's that we all are feeling, we know it's needed, but it's like, how do you get all of the players? And so even to make sure just internally, all of our players, you
Right.
know, are part of, and I think that they will tell you either the, you know, what they know, but we've got some persons who do have we've got some people who already have some expertise in where it is we want to go, but we don't know how to, they're not working the big picture. They're working a smaller picture, but what you're looking at is much larger. So how do we make that expansion? But
We always do better when we work together.
we do.
I mean,
We do. And I was real impressed with Barbara Crump, and I was so excited to go to Mary Scott with that. And it is one of the best feelings that it's not the best feeling that I've had working on the board, but it was a great feeling because here were little kids who are so, like you said, so excited about receiving a brand new book. And I know for myself as an adult, if you offer me, I was in a book club that the library started, and that's how they got me. They gave me a new book, a brand new book. And I was I was on, once they said they were giving me books, I was like, I'm in, and I'm still a part of the book club, you know?
Yeah.
So I think there is something to be said about ownership of a book. And then, like I said, you've got some people already on Scott's team that are doing what.
but they're different. Their skill set is in a different
That's true. That's
pillar.
true.
I
That's
mean,
true.
they're not doing what you guys are talking about at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I just think that anything that you can do, I will do whatever I can, because it's a growing concern, and the statistics are just startling. They are startling. in terms
If
of the
we can
content.
figure this out together, we really made a contribution to making the city better. And I think that's something that's important to me and to everyone on this board. Now, I will tell you, RPS is, I can barely figure out the importance of rhyming for a 3-year-old. That's like a PhD level skill set. So you bring up excellent points, one that I'm poorly suited to handle. So watch out. Yeah.
And another organization, we might need to reach out to is the Richmond Council of PTAs, because they're
Right.
in every school as well.
Do we ever make specialty library cards?
Oh, yeah, we have a youth card with Ripple on the front of it. That is-
Well, I think we need a Paw Patrol library card. Right, Emily?
Fire
that-
truck library card, we'd go for that too, yes.
I bet that's probably protected, that Paw Patrol stuff. I
Well,
don't
you'd
know.
probably have to
Yeah.
get- you'd have to
Yeah,
get
oh,
permission.
I'm sure, I'm sure. But yeah, but that, it ought to be, like, when the schools and GRTC connected and kids could ride the GRTC bus for free going to school. That was a big step forward. Because I had a child who had to take the bus to school, the city bus, because we were going to a school outside of our district. And that's a big thing. And now that's a freebie. That's a part of the structure. So a library card for any kid who's in Richmond Public Schools ought to be a given. It just ought to be, just like for the pre-K program there at my daughter's school today, they're doing the passing over. For those kids who are getting ready to go to kindergarten, coming out of the 4th grade program, that would be an excellent opportunity, as a part of the package that they're getting from the school, to get the library card. So then we've got the summer reading program. They could, so that they would know, like, not only do you have the card, but here's a resource that's going on right now that, 30-minute worth, 15 to 30 minutes worth of reading a day for your kid, and how important that is. So I think it's like, we've got the good programming. They've got the children who have the need, and how do we figure out a way to put it
To bring
together?
that all
Yeah,
together.
Yeah.
And often it's just getting, not just, wipe that out. Having preschool teachers come to the library,
Yeah.
because there's many who don't know that the library is
Right.
adjacent to or down the street from their center,
That's-
and all the things we could give them to make their jobs easier. Yeah.
Because, I think we have the same problem. We don't know where these, and I'm not saying as a negative, but we don't know where they live. We don't know if they know the resources of the city. They may not live in the city to know the resources. They may just be coming.
No,
in
no,
to
that's
work.
exactly, no, I'm not
Yeah.
saying it as a criticism.
No, I'm saying for me, I was saying, but I think sometimes when you live in another community, like if you work for Richmond Public Schools and you live in Henrico County, you would think of libraries like the library system in Henrico County, where
Right.
it's fully funded. It's like it's funded in a way that Richmond Public, our library is not public. I mean, it's been a fight to get the funding. We're grateful for it, but it's been a fight to get it, but so if you don't live in the city, you don't use the resources, and you may not know. So,
Right.
like I said, a big part of it is education. They were very receptive to Barbara Krupp's programming.
She is the perfect person
is.
for RVA.
She really is.
reading.
She's got
She
the-
is the perfect person.
Mhm, yeah,
What's her job?
she.
She's the RVA Reads coordinator. So she works with all of the Head Starts in the city of Richmond. The RPS school system gives her a classroom that she works from. So she coordinates volunteers,
Right.
and they have a curriculum where they visit the Head Starts almost monthly, and they provide a book to the child and a story time. So she has volunteers come and read to the children. When I went and did the program, we did it on money. So we talked to 3 and 4-year-olds about 5-year-olds about what a bank is and what money is. So I showed them money. Very simple,
Yeah.
but they loved it. And I gave them a little critters book and talked about how to put money in a piggy bank and do those things. Very simple, but very, I think, effective, because sometimes those children don't see people in their home reading to them.
Right.
So there were a couple police officers, there were firefighters.
Yeah.
All of that stuff those are people outside their home. They're heroes to them.
Right.
And it helps in so many different ways and social emotional levels, but also reading. So then they get to take that book home and they get to tell a story when they get home. That is a fundamental piece. The thing that Barbara strives for and we've strived for a long time is getting that parent education piece in. So teaching parents how to read to that child, asking those questions. Well, what's little critter doing?
Yeah.
Have you ever had money before? That dialogic interface with them is what really gets that reading to click in. And so birth to 5 is that time period where our brains are just like, you've all seen the MRI images of how those nerves are being wired in your brain. Those interactions make the difference, and just the cadence. I can go on for this on hours, so I'm going to stop. But it's critical, and we need this group to be the leaders of this. And we have to go, and Chris is doing a wonderful job of, she is an expert when it comes to managing projects and solving problems. And so having her viewpoint and being able to look at it from a person who's not in it to guide us and give us input is phenomenal. And we're going to be able to take what she's pulling together with the pedagogical groups and benchmarking to come up with a strategy or tweak the strategy we have to seek funding to address this need. We know we're seeing the need. We just need to figure out a strategy to solve a problem, because there's tons of strategies out there. And in Richmond, we're all kind of working in different silos, and everybody has a piece of it, but they can't see the whole thing.
Right.
So someone from the outside coming in, they could kind of see maybe the picture in a different way, because I think as we practice it, as we're experts in it, we get stuck on what we're good at.
Right.
So I'm very hopeful that we can, in this next 90 days, come up with benchmarking, more input. We're bringing experts to the table. We have people in the field who've been doing this for years. They've seen it come and go, just like you guys saw it come and go in the school system. How many curriculums did you have to look through? Yeah. So I'm hopeful that after the 90 days, and the next 90 days, we figure out how we're going to address those needs and then talk about funding. Because I believe funding exists for this, whether it's in city dollars or foundation dollars or outside. We can get some money. The outcomes are going to be difficult to track. There always are when it comes to education. But we're doing something, and it's like you said, some of those children don't even have books in the home. So we're not going to have readers unless there are books in the home. And reading is the core skill set, and not just basic reading. They need to be able to have higher levels of reading to be successful as they progress through their education path.
That's true.
So we can be a part of that. And we're not encumbered in ways that the RPS is encumbered. They're trying to, they're handling birth to 18. And they really need to focus on 6 to 18, because that's where they got to pass those tests to get those youth moved through the system.
And we're still building prisons based on 3rd grade reading scores.
Yep.
You don't get it by 3rd or 4th.
They don't know. It's exciting. It sounds great. It really does sound great.
Well, it's front and center. They're one of the biggest goals in our strategic plan. So
It is.
it's one of our focus points.
Okay,
So true.
we're excited to look forward to it. September, October kind of timeframe. A lot more information there, and it does, as everyone's echoed, it really does fit that core direction we're trying to go. And Sharon and Barbara, be great resources with RPS.
Oh, I'm giving them this. If you guys will take it on, I would be so deeply appreciative. And then we'll all put everything together as a team. Yeah.
And somehow we've got to figure out with the schools how to make it almost effortless for the people who are overwhelmed in the schools to take advantage of the program.
Right.
So we've got to have them work with it, but it's got
That's
to be something
implementation,
that,
and we can, but let's
Right.
get the strategy first.
right, I was
Yeah,
gonna say,
then-
so
then we'll
they've got to
worry
be there,
about
but not necessarily expecting a lot of extra. Okay, great. Anything else that anyone wanted to bring up? New business, anything to put on the calendar? Okay, I'm gonna ask for a motion that we adjourn. Second,
Second.
okay, Sharon, all in favor, aye. We are
Aye.
adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
North Avenue, in July. Yeah.